And there came a time known as the third millennium, a time when the people of the earth were ravaged by disease, pestilence, and poisons, a time when the horsemen of the apocalypse ran the multinational corporations, a time when America's citizens were waking up to a future of no money and no jobs, a time when a special man came forward, a man that your American taskmasters did not want you to see or hear, a man whom they took prisoner and hid away, a man whose name is Yahweh ben Yahweh. For telling people the truth, Yahweh ben Yahweh was taken prisoner by the minions of darkness. For giving people hope, Yahweh ben Yahweh was led away to Golgotha. This is the continuing story of the past and of the future, about good and about evil, about your life and what it will become. A story that tells why the so-called black man of America had to suffer for over 400 years. A story of what will happen to the so-called black man if he returns to the laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments of God, Yahweh. Olam shall Yahweh. The universe of Yahweh. Brought to you by the nation of Yahweh. Working for you and your future.
Good or evil, life or death. This is your choice in this, the year 6003, the year of judgment. Shalom and welcome to the universe of Yahweh. My name is Josiah Israel, and I am your host. For over 7 years now, we have been discussing some of the things the Bible said would occur in the day of judgment. We warned you that the weather was going to change, and that the powerful forces of nature were going to bring terrible destruction upon America and the world, and that it was going to get worse and worse and worse. And it has. We alerted you that violence in the public schools was going to increase, and it has. We showed you in the scriptures that forewarned of wickedness in high places, and we are witnessing today gross misconduct and serious crimes being committed by some of our highest elected officials. What lies ahead for America and the world is nothing less than the proliferation of deadly diseases and plagues as foretold in the Bible. But there is hope. The Bible tells us that at the end, the Messiah would be revealed, and at that time, he would save the righteous from this impending destruction. That one, the Messiah, is Yahweh ben Yahweh. So we invite you to join us in the universe of Yahweh, featuring the commandments of Yahweh and the Messiah revealed. First, the commandments of Yahweh.
For 6,000 years, we have been suffering at the hands of rulers who transgress the laws of Yahweh and teach all people throughout the earth to transgress the laws of Yahweh. In order to have peace, love, and harmony upon the earth, we must return to keeping the commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes of Yahweh. All of us have been taught that the commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes in the Old Testament Bible do not count today. In this series, we will show you that the commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes in the Old Testament Bible do count, and that if we govern our lives according to these commandments, judgments, laws, and statutes of God Yahweh, then we will have peace and goodwill upon the earth forever. We invite you to study along with us. However, in order to do so, you must have the following tools: a King James Version of the Bible, several dictionaries, the New Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, a set of encyclopedias, Hebrew and Greek lexicons, a thesaurus, and a synonym finder.
Shalom, my name is Ben Kail Bethel Yisrael. The first two commandments ever given to man were given to Adam in the Garden of Eden, which were to dress it and to keep it. Last week, we continued our examination of Mark chapter 14, verse 43, which showed that Judas and a great multitude with him came with swords against Yahweh ben Yahweh. The word swords was defined as a weapon used as the symbol of conflict and vengeance. We learned that a weapon is an instrument of attack in combat, and an instrument is a legal document or medium. The definitions of conflict and vengeance shed light on the fact that Judas will publicly criticize Yahweh ben Yahweh strongly or in a hostile manner, and he will also launch a public, violent, verbal attack against Yahweh ben Yahweh through various mediums to impose his false grievances on the public as a punishment to Yahweh ben Yahweh. We contrasted that just as animals use their horns, teeth, or claws as swords in an attack to rip apart another animal, in like manner, Judas used his hand as a sword to sign a legal document containing false information, and his mouth as a sword to speak lies to attack and rip apart Yahweh ben Yahweh's reputation. Since Judas and those with him have ideas that are contrary to the teachings of Yahweh ben Yahweh, they will publicly subject the teachings of Yahweh ben Yahweh to severe sarcasm used to expose and discredit his teachings by falsely accusing him of sexual immorality. These acts, we told you, will cause Yahweh ben Yahweh a painful loss of a person whom he was once proud to call his familiar friend. We let it be known that Judas will publicly use these false allegations as swords against Yahweh ben Yahweh in retaliation for a felony charge that caused him, Judas, to serve time in prison. We expressed that even though Judas and the great multitude with him sat in the temple with Yahweh ben Yahweh daily, they did not take in, which means they did not understand what Yahweh ben Yahweh taught, nor did they apply his principles in their everyday lives. We verified in Mark chapter 14, verse 4, that these things were done, that the scripture might be fulfilled. Today, we will continue our examination of Mark chapter 14, verse 43, which reads in part, "And with him, Judas, a great multitude with swords and staves." We will now get a clear understanding of what the second word staves represents. On the authority of the New Strong's Exhaustive Concordance of the Bible, copyright 1990, in the Greek Dictionary of the New Testament section, on page 50, under reference number 3586, the Greek word for staves is xulon, and it means timber. By implication, a stick. We see from this definition that staves depicts timber. Now, when most of us hear the word timber, we think of wood or trees. In order for us to fully understand timber and its relationship to staves, we must first decode the word timber. Documented in Roget's 2, The New Thesaurus, Expanded Edition, copyright 1988, on page 1016, timber means the essential elements of character that qualify a person for a specified role. To understand this definition, we will define a few of the key words. Stated in Chambers' 21st Century Dictionary, copyright 1996, on page 448, essential is often the essentials, which means a basic piece of information. Referenced in the Cassell Concise Dictionary, copyright 1989, on page 117, base, the root word of basic, means vulgar. On page 1643, vulgar means in common use. The Random House College Dictionary, copyright 1988, on page 427, describes elements as regarded as naturally suited to any person. From these facts, we can logically deduce that staves means that Judas and a great multitude with him came with pieces of false information accusing Yahweh ben Yahweh of actions that are commonly used to discredit a person's reputation and that are regarded as actions naturally suited to qualify him in a specified role. Let's examine another definition of the word timber. According to Roget's 2, The New Thesaurus, Expanded Edition, on page 1016, timber is synonymous to material and stuff. On page 627, material is defined as that from which things can be made. And on page 966, stuff means something that does not make sense. We can gather from these facts that the word staves represents false pieces of vulgar information that is made up and does not make sense. In accordance with Roget's 2, The New Thesaurus, Expanded Edition, on page 627, the words material and stuff are equivalent to the idiom grist for one's mill. Grist for one's mill? What does this mean? Referenced in Webster's New World College Dictionary, 4th edition, copyright 1999, on page 626, grist for someone's mill means anything that someone can use profitably. On page 1146, profit, the root word of profitably, means financial gain. Now, with these additional facts at hand, we can reasonably assert that Judas, who will come to be known as the familiar friend of Yahweh ben Yahweh, will come out publicly with false, vulgar pieces of information that he has made up, which will not make sense, to qualify Yahweh ben Yahweh for a specific role in the minds of the people. This action by Judas will allow him to hide his true intent as a thief in order to fulfill a particular section in the written document or contract that the Judas family have made with the chief priest, the FBI, and the scribes, the media, to secure unlawful money for financial gain. To prove this point, let us complete our definition of the word staves. By implication, a stick. Referenced in Roget's 2, the New Thesaurus, expanded edition, on page 954, stick means to force another to accept a burden. Burden, by definition, means the same as charge. In Black's Law Dictionary, abridged 7th edition, copyright 2000, on page 184, charge is defined as a formal accusation of a crime. From these definitions, we can deduce that staves represent formal, false accusations of criminal activity that Judas and those with him will publicly express against Yahweh ben Yahweh in an effort to force the public to accept as true without proof. We can conclude from all of these facts that staves represent false and vulgar pieces of information and formal false accusations of criminal activity. These are all weapons of war that Judas and those with him will publicly express in an effort to force the public to accept as true without proof, so that Yahweh ben Yahweh will be looked upon in a specified role, more specifically as a criminal in the minds of the people. These staves, meaning pieces of vulgar information and false accusations, have been used to fulfill a particular section in the written contract that Judas made with the FBI and the media to secure unlawful money for financial gain. Next week, we will show you who is providing Judas with the resources needed and essential to execute this plan on the world stage as we continue our course of singling out the family of Adam from the perspective of the word watch and its relationship to keep. I bear witness to you today that the Messiah, Yahweh ben Yahweh, is here.
I bear witness to you today that the Mahdi is here.
I bear witness to you today that Shiloh is here.
I bear witness to you today that the great light is here.
I bear witness to you today that the Grand Master of the Celestial Lodge, Architect of the universe, is here.
I bear witness to you today that the Enlightened One is here.
I bear witness to you today that the one all religions has been speaking of for almost 6,000 years is here.
Thank you for listening, and join us next week as we continue our discussion of the commandments of Yahweh.
The United States government has declared war against Yahweh ben Yahweh and the nation of Yahweh in its Project Megiddo report, released by the FBI in October 1999. Do you know that this is fulfillment of prophecy? It was prophesied in Revelation 12:7 that there was war in heaven. Michael, the Messiah, and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. In the government's report, the nation of Yahweh is labeled as extreme terrorists, accused of believing that white people are incarnate manifestations of evil. We are even accused of preparing for a race war and are practicing paramilitary operations, none of which are true. This is a divinely declared word war, whose end result was already declared from the beginning. Since war has been declared, read the Nation of Yahweh's battle plan called Operation Word War on the internet at www.yahwehbenyahweh.com.
Loading. One moment, please. The new Yahweh Ben Yahweh website now offers the latest in streaming technology to aid you in your study of the laws and teachings of Yahweh Ben Yahweh. Visit YahwehBenYahweh.com and learn about the Tetragrammaton, the meaning of the crucifixion, and how to keep the Sabbath. YahwehBenYahweh.com is your home for truth and insight. Read about Operation Word War and how you can work to balance justice. Shalom.
Who is worthy? Who is worthy to open the book? Who is worthy to open the book and loose the seals thereof?
And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. At the end of time of evil rule, the Anointed One, the Messiah, shall appear. In 1979, Yahweh Ben Yahweh came to Miami and became the spiritual leader and founder of the Nation of Yahweh. Although he took a vow of poverty, in 7 years he guided the nation to amass a $250 million empire. Under his direction, the Nation of Yahweh has grown to encompass disciples, followers, and supporters in over 1,300 cities within the U.S. and 16 foreign countries. Yahweh Ben Yahweh is bringing about changes in the lives of individuals and is giving the world the keys to success in life, politically, economically, educationally, socially, and spiritually.
Behold, Yahweh Ben Yahweh and the children whom Yahweh has given him are for signs and for wonders in Israel from Yahweh. Without knowledge of Yahweh, there is no light in Israel, the so-called black man of America. And because you are walking in darkness, you are beginning to experience hunger. You are fretting yourselves and cursing your rulers and your gods. You are beginning to look unto the earth, and behold, all you see are trouble and darkness, dimness of anguish, torment, suffering, sorrow, and you are being driven to even greater darkness. We are here to testify to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the so-called black man of America, that without the knowledge of Yahweh, your dimness is a sore vexation and a grievous affliction. Dimness comes from the Hebrew word muah, and it means covered, dark obscurity, and distress. In other words, without the knowledge of Yahweh, the lost sheep of the house of Israel is suffering from uncertainty, equivocation, and confusion.
Remember that this is the morning of the third day, and I shall rise again. I am the resurrection. All of prophecy tells you that I shall rise again. It's all about that. Luke chapter 2, verse 34. No doubt about it. Again, I love you forever, bless you forever. I remind you once again, my associates are children of the light. That just brings laughter to my heart, to my soul, to realize that at last I have those of you that love peace. And I only want to be in the presence of those of you that love peace. I love you forever. Shalom Aleichem.
As a result of being without the knowledge of Yahweh, the so-called black man of America have suffered greatly. We have suffered from non-recognition, namelessness, and worthlessness. But today is a new day, for Yahweh ben Yahweh has come teaching the knowledge of the laws of Yahweh. By being in the knowledge of the laws of Yahweh, we will receive worldwide recognition, a good name, and great worth in the sight of the Lord Yahweh. Thank you for joining us in the universe of Yahweh. And now we'd like to invite all of you to pray with us as we turn to the east with outstretched hands and say a prayer to our Heavenly Father Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew. Come, let us pray. Tefillah, Avenu Shabbat Shemayim, Yikardesh Shemeaka, Tavo Malkuteaka, Yase Razonka, Kiva Shemayim Kain Ba'aretz, Et Lekum Kukenu, Tain Lanu Hayom, Uslak Lanu, All Katienu, Ki Moshe Solkim, Gamanaknu, La Koteum Lanu, Veal Tefienu, Lede Nisayom, Kim Kal Senu, Min Hara, Kilaka, Hamumlaha, Veha Givera, Veha Tiferet, Leolame, Olamin Sila. We thank thee, O Yahweh, O living and eternal King, who has so mercifully restored our souls within us. Selah. Praise Yahweh, and always remember that the Father Yahweh and His Son, Yahweh ben Yahweh, love you, and your host loves you too. Shalom Aleichem.
To order the companion book to the series, The Messiah Revealed, call 1-800-967-PEACE. That's 1-800-967-7337. And when you call, ask about the special discount on the resurrection of Abel. Videos of this program are available. When ordering, please refer to the program number on the screen.
You can now access the divine mind of Yahweh ben Yahweh on the internet at the address on the screen.